control. So I want to share with you this testimony because I'm sure
now I expect quick answers, but from it I learned that I should trust the process, I should be patient, and I should persevere. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cordelia and I'm from Polokwane. For me, I would say the show that was hardest to hear, but I had to hear it, it is the bamboo tree. It is because I'm one person who likes to get quick results. If I do something now, I expect quick answers. But from it, I learned that I should trust the process, I should be patient, and I should persevere.
My name is Bonisile from Tagaza. The Trojan Horse was my favorite show that featured the YPG because it made me actually realize that as the young people, we actually put more effort in things that really don't matter and in things that will definitely bring bad consequences in our lives.
My name is Bongile Msomi and I'm all the way from Soweto, Bar. My favorite show, it was actually two shows. It was the Gen Z edition and the Trojan horse. So why the Gen Z edition? I remember Miss Masha, towards the end of the show, she asked one youth member, and she asked them that, who is God to you? You know, I had to go home and revisit that question. You know, I had to revisit who God is to me and like share the experiences that I have. Like, what has He done for me? You understand? And the Trojan horse was because, hey, it was confrontational. God was dropping mics. So I had to find out that what are the challenges that I have overcame and what are the challenges that I am going through, and that how should I even overcome them? Which show was the most confrontational that I needed to hear? And it was so hard. Definitely the Trojan horse. I mean, it unraveled a whole lot of things that I hold on to, you know, things that I think are good, are gifts, but actually are like a blessing before, you know, a blessing before time is a curse. So someone once told me that. So it revealed a whole lot of things that I thought they were diamond or gold, but they were just glitter.
That's right, you asked and we finally answered. Woman to Woman will be having a 2-part special, packed with every kind of incredible moment you can think of. From the bloopers to the laughters and everything in between. And the best part? You will be our special guest, sharing with us what your favorite show and moments were of 2022. Are you ready for this? See you this Friday at 3 p.m. We are women. We are brave, strong, capable, unique. We are Women to Women.
Good afternoon, South Africa. We are towards the end of the year. Another 2 weeks, we are going to conclude 2022. It has been a very meaningful year for all of us after the 2 years of the pandemic. And because we are at the holidays, very few people working, you taking some rest, visiting family, and I hope you are watching this program with your family, with your friends. We have decided to take these 2 last weeks of the month of December and bring up special shows for you. It is time to ponder on what we have said, the dull moments, the high moments, the excitement, to give thanks to the team behind the cameras, to the editing team, to our co-hosts, and you're going to have a little bit, I call it a collage of Woman to Woman 2022 in today's show. So we are going to share with you today our favorite shows. We are going to share what you want the most, the backstage moments, the raw moments, the favorite songs. We are going to have live performance today. And we are going to share a little bit of what has been our journey in Woman to Woman. Because as we said before, when we are preparing the show, we have an idea. But when we come together and we start talking about the topics, many times they are very, very effective for us. Who knows? Sometimes more for us than for yourselves. And this is what we want to talk about today. So, first of all, very important role in this program, our audience from all over Africa, our audience from the United States, our audience from Europe, and you're going to see now few of their comments.
There is one part of the show that doesn't get much attention, but never fails to inspire, to help, or simply just make us laugh. You know what it is? The comment section. If we could, we would read out every single comment, especially ones of the stories that were dear in your life. We kickstarted this year with the challenge of I am a work in progress. Many of you embrace this challenge for the year of 2022 with all your strength. One of the most beautiful moments was when you shared a bit of your own life stories in the comments. My wow moment was when you discussed the vow. I remember feeling attacked when my daughter said, "Mama, did you hear that? A vow is a vow, irrespective of how small it is." But I came to realize that God is highlighting something for me to work on. For example, making appointments and arriving late and justifying it as, "Hi man, people are always late," forgetting that it sets a bad precedent on me. I remember a pastor's wife mentioned that people who don't fulfill their vows become untrustworthy, and this really made me think about it and confront myself. I am a work in progress. It's tough, but I'm moving forward. Thank you, Woman to Woman, for an amazing work. We cannot leave out the crazy comments of our Battle of the Generation series. Millennials are workaholics, always looking for ways to work, and if we don't know how to do something, Gen Y would get angry when someone reads their secrets in their diaries, and Gen Z write their secrets on a timeline and get angry when no one reads. And that was the moment that marked the beginning of something great, the chosen generation. Hashtag I am part of the chosen generation. You have shown so much support to us from all over the world, from countries in Africa, the United States, Asia, Europe, and beyond. So, from Woman to Woman, thank you for all your love, participation, and support over the past year. Now back to the show.
Hi ladies, such a pleasure to be here with you again. I want to share with you lessons learned in 2022. Yes, there were many programs throughout this year that was really very interesting and eye-open to all of us, I'm sure. But I have to talk about the program of 24th of December. It's gonna be 1 year now, where they were talking about the work in progress and the things we have, that we are all work in progress, and the things that we have to change. And I remember I recorded a video talking about that, saying that I used to be very controlling, and I was working on that, and so I was a work in progress, still some things to adjust. And they gave me a mission for 2022. And so interesting that the first 6 months of 2022 was really challenging to myself in terms of being controlling, because I was in a situation where I had no control over anything. I wouldn't know what was going to happen or where I would go or not. So it was such a blessing, because when I remember, they even mentioned in this program of December 24 that God would put us to the test again. And it was exactly what happened to me in these first 6 months. And I have to say that, yes, I'm work in progress, but I no longer that kind of controlling person that wants to be, over everything. And I have learned through this experience in 2022 that I went through, that we always say that God is in control, but in practical, when situations come, when we are challenging, we tend to think that we have to do something. In certain cases, we have to take control. And the truth is, we have to allow God to be in control, and we have to trust in Him. And that's what I did. And I have to say, watching the programs, even the ones of 2022, was also helping me with that, to really analyze myself, reflecting on my reactions, on the feelings that were coming, on the thoughts, and removing what was not good, and really worked on myself and allow God to be in control. So I want to share with you this testimony, because I'm sure you being also embraced in this slogan that they are using, we are a work in progress, because in truth is, we are all a work in progress. And I know that we still have a lot of things to learn, a lot of things to grow. And if we allow God to work in us, He will be able to work through us. So I just want to share with you this short testimony about the Woman to Woman program that happened 1 year ago, and amazingly God worked in me so that I could really learn and stop being this kind of controlling person that I was. Okay, so I just want to share that with you. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for your support. But more than your support, we hope that we have been reaching you out in different ways, with the topics of the shows, with our comments, with our prayers. So a little bit of what we had, and of course, hosts here, they are always honored. So we have 2 visitors here, that is Nami and Mohadi, and all the other participants, they are going to contribute with their videos. What was the show, Hadi, that was reflecting over, I forgot how many shows. I think they are more than 150 shows in this year alone. Which one spoke to you personally?
It was even hard to choose. The one that was most striking was Choose Your Heart. The show was Choose Your Heart, because when the show was aired, I received bad news from a family member that, at that point I had to choose. Receiving that bad news, either I was going to panic, drown in the situation, or allow questions to overwhelm me, but I had to choose. As in the show, we have learned that, you either choose negative or you choose positive, but in both sides, it's not easy, So at that point, I had to choose to trust in God. I chose to trust in God, and that released a weight off my shoulders. It released the questions, and I was at ease, because we understand that the yoke of God, it's easy and it's light. So at that moment, I clung to Him. I chose to trust in Him, even if I didn't have answers, even if I didn't know what is going to happen, but I trusted in God. So I chose to trust in Him, and things, they worked out at the end of the day.
So a little bit of Choose Your Heart, just to recap. This is an expression that is quite used recently, but breaking it to the meaning, it is, life is hard. It is hard anyway. But depending on your choices of the heart you want to follow, you will need to live out of the consequences. So choose your heart. It's a matter of choice.
And you'll hear a lot of them saying, oh, it's so hard. I don't think I can do 7 years of varsity. I don't think I can stay away from parties for that long. But the truth is, you not having a career is harder than that.
We have those who are single, and being a single person is hard. We have those who are married, and being married is hard. And we have those who divorce, and that is harder.
And we have those who want to just stay together thinking they don't have the commitment and liabilities, but it's
that
not like that.
Really hard. Believe in us, it will be really hard.
The heart of forgiving others and the heart of not forgiving others. Both of them is hard, and keeping that hurt within you, it's harder as well. Forgiving is hard. Letting go of the pain of the past and saying, you know what, God, I I forgive them. They don't deserve it, but I forgive them. That is one of the most difficult things that a person can do. But it is rewarding because it helps your health. You become less stressed.
So, of course, it's hard that you wanted to buy something that you like, and right now you cannot. However, it's harder to live in debts. It's harder not to have what to give to your kids. We are going to give you a few tips on what can you do when life really gets hard.
Remember that...
Tip 1.
Okay, remember tip 1. Remember that it will not last forever.
Take it as a learning experience. Instead of looking at the ending result, enjoy the ride. God's heart is light. His burden is easy. And you know why? Because when we opt for God, He takes care of everything. I want to talk now about the most challenging program that we had. When I decided to do the show with the Gen Zs, it was fun, the idea. It was very exciting. But when the moment came, I had that moment like, why did I do it to myself and to my friends? And it was really a challenge, but it was a good exercise to try to put ourselves inside their mind and not knowing that it would be the first of 3 shows. And Precious, you were telling us that for you, they were the most captivating shows of the season.
Yes, they were very captivating because from that we got to see the different character traits that each generation has. And a lot of times we think, no, that it's just me. But we don't realize how circumstance and the resources we have within that generation actually groom us to be in a certain way. And it was funny how I think with our generation, them quitting on jobs and just leaving when they're not satisfied.
I didn't make sense of it up to now. I'm still battling to reconcile how you are career makers, but you just jump from one job to the other.
Yes, and from that, I think all of the generations at the end were all looking for being happy, being fulfilled, finding belonging. However, I think it all knitted so well with the last one, which was the chosen generation, when we came in now to realize that, okay, we've gone through our struggles. Our generations have their pros and their cons, and they have the things that they are provided for. However, if we now shift ourselves to be now part of a different generation, which is not going to be controlled by any circumstance or any noise from the outside, we could actually have that fulfillment that we want. Because from all generations, all I kept hearing was the misunderstanding. But in my mind, I kept thinking, but we were all created by God. We all have God's image. So what is the barrier that is there? But it was beautiful how when we came to Chosen Generation, everybody was on the same page. There was no questions. There was no debacles. There was no disagreements or shocks. Everybody just came in together and agreed that this is what we need to be. So that was the most, I think, nice one, because we had to as well sit down and hear the generation that we felt they were entitled to things, but then they let us know, because we were also looked at by the past generation as the generation of rights, because we always exercised our rights. But then when they came in and brought in their way of living, we were not that welcoming to it as the past generation. So it was a very beautiful one, the 3 generations, the battles.
And for me, it was also a very good experience to have our partnership with YPG. We have done a few programs with them. Recently, we have done the Trojan Horses. We have worked together for June 16, and that shows the unity we need to have in the body of Christ. And it's always a pleasure. It is a challenge. We go to the program and say, what is going to happen today? Isn't that? Oh, it's only me. No. All of us. But it's always very nice. It's always very successful. And I hope that not only to the mature audience, we have reached to the YPG. And I am very curious, and I'm not going to be cute like the cat, to hear from them. YPG, it is with you.
Hi, Women to Women. So we are the YPG, and we're going to be doing a quick retrospective of the work in progress that we have seen through the work of the Women to Women shows.
Hi everyone, my name is Alicia, and as for me, one thing I love about the Women to Women, because us as young women, it happens that there are some lessons that our moms were supposed to teach us, and it happens that sometimes our moms aren't present in our lives, and we have to learn lessons in when we are a bit older, you know. So Women to Women plays a part in that, where they teach us things that our moms never taught us. That's what I love about the Women to Women.
So what I love about the Women to Women, my name is Tammy. What I love about the Women to Women is how detailed the program goes, like how you get to learn things that you never thought you would ever know about, like how the famous controlling and laid back, you know, some of the things that we learn about. It's a very eye-opening show. You never think that, okay, wow, this could actually be me, or this could actually be something that I would need to improve in. So that's what I love most about Women to Women, how detailed this program goes too.
Hi, I'm Anisihe. So what I love about the Women to Women show is how the topics vary and how sometimes they seem so random, like topics that you never think about, like ever, like, and it's topics that are part of our daily lives and lessons that affect us as we go on as young women. So that's what I love about it.
My name is Stephanie, and similar to what Anesihle said, what I like about the Woman to Woman show is that it forces you to think about things that you never usually stop to think about. So like, we live in a day and age of information where from the moment that we wake up to the moment that we sleep, we are constantly poured with so much information that sometimes it's very hard to stop and try and digest and think about what we have read and heard about throughout our day. So the Woman to Woman show that will stop you in your tracks and cause you to think and be like, hey, wait, does this make sense? So for me, that is why I like the Woman to Woman show.
Hi, I'm Nomtanda Zonkosi. What I like about the Woman to Woman is that it's relatable, meaning that as a young person, you can relate to the messages they teach us. As an old person, you can relate. And as well as like, they love discussing things that happen in generational periods, from Gen Z to millennials. So you get to understand what this generation means and why this generation goes through whatever they go through.
My favorite Woman to Woman show from this year was the Soft Life, Flex Life. For me, it was an eye-opener to show that sometimes us as young people, we look at rich people, we look at celebrities, and we wish to be like them. But do we know how they earn the money? Do we know what takes place for them to be rich? Do we know what they're going through? Because we desire their lives. Some young people, they kill themselves. We think everything is okay. They have money, they have everything.
For me, my favorite Women to Women show was Climate Change. I don't know if you guys remember how we spoke about, or how the Women to Women program spoke about the issues, mentioning the celebrities and the trends out there that we have. People usually do things and they don't think about the consequences. You want to venture into something, or you want to trend and adventure in something that you're not even sure how is it going to turn out. So for me, Climate Change really was an eye-opener, because I was able to understand that sometimes it is important to know, why am I taking this decision, and what is the benefit that it's gonna help me with in the future.
I had two shows that I actually related to, but the other one just came recently, the last Friday one, about being human, and I related to it because most of the facts that they spoke about on the show, I could relate to it because I grew up in Joburg CBD. I see the mob justice. You see how we really have lost humanity, and growing up here, it forces you to toughen up. There's no time to be human, and you don't even recognize that there are certain qualities that you lose staying in such an environment that you stop being human to a certain extent. And I couldn't help but relate also when you see people begging, you're already closed off. I'm not going to give them money because I know they're going to buy drugs. They're not going to use it for anything good. And it has shut our trust in other people, that ubuntu ngumuntu ngabantu, and we've basically lost that. In me growing up here, I've seen it.
So the show that stood out for me was Boss Babe. The reason being is because in my past, I was always this person that I believed in the ideals of feminism and, woman empowerment. And I never realized that even after giving my life to God, I had still held on to some of those characteristics of an alpha female. And after watching the show, God kind of pointed out that even though I'm in his presence, there are still some of those characteristics that are displaying. So for me, that was the show that really stuck out for me, because it forced me to stop in my tracks and to think about my actions and my reactions and what characteristics of the alpha female that I was still holding from my past that I had automatically assumed that I had let go of. But in actual fact, it was still within me.
The show that I took in was The Trojan Horse. So it's you expecting a situation to turn out one point, but the opposite takes place. And for me, what I took in was a spiritual Trojan horse. So when God says, this is how it should be, but you no, God, you persist with God and say, no, it should be this way. So it's having to fight with the flesh, battling with yourself, and you're no, this is the right way, but God says, no, it's the other way. And even Mrs. Tammy mentioned an example of one who goes to a country that has no church, and because you want to go there, you feel no, it's a great country, you're going to earn a lot of money and everything, but there's not even a church, but you persist in your own will, and God is no, I don't think it's the right thing for you. It's not the right decision you should take. Unfortunately, consequences end up taking place, and the bad consequences, unfortunately, take place. So that's what stood out for me.
YPG, woman to woman, to another level. Peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Cut.
Now we need a little bit of a song. So each one of us, we have our favorite songs. Of course, because when we choose a song for that show, it somehow needs to go in line with what we're talking about. And each one of us, we have the favorite one. Silmara, you have got the right to say your favorite.
Yeah, mine was the Jacob song. It was so special on how he was alone, and in that moment he's changed completely. So that was the most beautiful song for me.
Jacob's song, there we go.
For the very first time, all alone, facing all fears and afflictions, running away, you're looking this way and that, with nothing else, walking till I reach this awesome place. Only then I could see the time I've spent not knowing you. Now I'm making this stone an altar to surrender myself and vow for the rest of my life. God above everything.
Hi, my name is Tumi and I'm from Polokwane. My favorite show was the 1 year relationship sabotage. It was hard for me to hear from because it was kind of confrontational, but I had to learn a lot from it. Most of the time as women, we have this tendency of always blaming the men when relationships are failing, but we find it hard to accept our mistakes. So from this show, I realized that as women, sometimes we put men under pressure. We expect a lot from them, where else we don't accept our own mistakes. Sometimes it's the women who sabotage the relationship. So that's what I learned from the show. Oh, my sister, if you're not watching the Woman to Woman show, just know that you are missing out because there's a lot to learn from these shows.
Now, tell me, what was your favorite show?
Mine was intentional living. And the reason it was my favorite, it's because God had already spoken to me about...
Actually, you were the mentor, the mind behind intentional living, frugal living.
Yes, so God had already spoken to me about intentional living, how to be intentional in everything that I do every day, to give meaning to my life, and how being grateful, how being present means being intentional. And it went back to how I would set intentions for like the year and not fulfill them. So with the show, it was God finally like saying, you know what, Tammy, get your act together. Now it's time for you to start living intentionally, because I had a lot of good intentions for my life, for the year, for everything, for the work of God, for everything that I would do. I had good intentions. The problem was to put action behind the intention. So it had been something that God had been nagging me for so long. And when the show finally came, I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. And it's true, Mrs. Master, when you say that sometimes we think the audience might think that the show is really for them, but a lot of them were for me, because as someone said, it's like a slap on the face. I don't know how many slaps I've received throughout Woman to Woman. And I honestly believe that the show was made for me, if I'm being selfish in that way, because God really used the program to speak to me. And sometimes it would be that I would speak something, and then because I watch it again, and I'd be like, oh my goodness, really? And it's like that wow moment. So this show was really for me. And when I knew that I would be part of the team to share what God is speaking, I thought that, you know what, God, okay, you called me to share this with the people. And God was like, that's what you think. But I am actually going to work on you through the show. So it has worked on me so much. And I hope that it has done the same for the audience.
Life moves on so quickly, and sometimes we don't realize that we are operating on autopilot. We keep doing things the way that they have always been done, the way that we were taught how to do them, and maybe they worked for us at that time, but things have changed. Life has changed. People have grown. You are in a different level in your life, that the way that you were doing things and how it worked for you 10 years ago, perhaps it doesn't serve you for the values that you have now, or for the level of life that you are at right now.
When we're not grateful, it's very easy for one to go on autopilot, because when you're grateful, firstly, when you open your eyes, you're grateful for a new opportunity that you have, a new day, because not everybody that went to bed last night woke up this morning.
Intentional living also has all to do with values. But if you don't know your values, then you have a problem. And I was thinking about kids, because the mothers normally, they tell them what they are going to be. So they try to sow the seeds of their intentional living. I want my child to be like that.
Another way of living intentionally is letting go of negative relationships. There are many people who have toxic relationships in their lives, but they don't want to let go of those relationships because they feel empathy towards those people. Like, if I let them go, what's going to happen with her? No one understands her, only me. But the problem is that with negative relationships, it impacts you, the person who is in that friendship, who is in that relationship.
Organize your time and money. And I think this is detrimental to intentional living. While you don't realize where your money is going by, and you allow yourself, for instance, to sit 4 hours on the couch, watching whatever is playing on TV, be it series, news, and you sleep in between, you're not being intentional with your life, because how much more could you have done?
Love your neighbor as you love yourself. This one is something that we all know. And a neighbor is not only your next door neighbor, but it's everyone that you come into contact with at work, at school. That is your neighbor. But I would like to concentrate more on the second part. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. A lot of people do not live intentionally because they don't know how to love themselves.
To live intentionally, spiritually, it means to be able to accept God's will for our life.
Hello everyone, my name is Alexandra and my favorite show of 2022 was To My Brother. It was such a special show for me, and being a sister, I just wish that my brothers could understand English and I would definitely share the show with them. I wish that every man could have an opportunity to watch this show. I think, if I'm not mistaken, if not the first and the only show we have made for directly to men. If men would have the understanding of God's creation, and if they could know and learn how to deal with their emotion, because yes, men have emotions. The world we live, the society we live would be much, much better. Families will have foundation and structure because man was created with the purpose, was not just created to stay in this world without a purpose. So my favorite show is To My Brother.
That's wonderful. Did you have any wow moment?
I know I did. There was a program that talked about acceptance. And it took me back. And the wow moment for me was God saying to me, do you see how far you've come? Because in that program, I really went as far back as the early years, teens, my 20s. And all I could see was the desperation I had to be accepted. So much so that I remember that you mentioned something about the values that a family instills and the rules that a family has so that there could be proper living inside a family. And I used to kick against those things a lot. And then I used to get into a lot of trouble. I got so many spankings, I have lost count. But when it happened, I would always feel so hard done by my parents. Like, how could they do this to me? They don't like me. These people, am I really their child? Was I adopted? And I would seriously be asking those things because I'm in so much pain after doing something wrong and getting sorted out for it. I would blame them because I was always kicking against the goats. And that went from the time that I lived with a relative who was very abusive. When I came out from under that person, stay put,
Leave Nadala there.
When I came back from that, when I was taken out of those circumstances and that life, the damage had already been done. And because that damage was there, and I had been treated like I was the stupid one, the bad child, the wrong one, that evil child who always needs to be corrected and taught this and punished and, and hurt so that I can get it into my mind that I'm not good enough. I believed it. I was a child, but it stayed with me until God showed me a different side. And I would always do things because my friends are doing them. For me to start drinking was because I wanted to fit in. For me to start dating was because I wanted to fit in. For me to start smoking, even contraband.
Oh,
okay.
Revelations.
Was because I wanted to fit in. All the people who were doing those things looked so cool to me. And I wanted more than anything else to be liked, to be accepted. And all that was doing to me was hurting me even more. And when it did that, I would do something even more drastic for me to now be accepted. I'd walk with people who have guns because now, these people are feared. Hey, maybe if people fear me, that'll be the way I'm accepted. And I used to destroy myself just so that I could feel like I'm being accepted. And even where I worked, the company I worked in when I found Jesus, when I met the Lord, I used to go to all kinds of, they were not parties, they were orgies. It was like
Confessions of Nametsu. It took 1 year. We need to get the whole testimony.
So
It's a promise. 2023, we're going to have the full testimony of Nami.
So I don't even remember what I was saying.
It was not parties, it was orgies.
Yes,
and all
they
of
were
us,
not parties, they were orgies. And it was the group of friends I had from work. We would take smoke breaks together. The things that would come out of our mouths were foul. And all that was the persona I had built around myself and for myself so that I could be accepted. And now imagine this. That's the group of friends I have. And then I start coming to church. And then I decide to give my life to Jesus.
And you know, I don't place you with that group of friends, knowing the family you're coming from, family
Precisely.
values.
Precisely. Because I grew up in a family that had very good principles and family values. And you know how, incidentally, when you say that, I'm reminded of the fact that all that bad behavior of starting to want to be like this person and that person and the other was my first year of tertiary. And that's when I left home. And I wasn't under their
Trojan horse.
Their very watchful eye anymore. So I just went wild. So when all those things happened, and then I found Jesus, and then I decided I'm going to give my life to Jesus, they made it hell for me. But for the first time in my life, I didn't care. They spoke ill of me. They tried to get me into trouble with management even. It backfired, of course, because now I had the protection of God. But I had to go through so much fire, but it didn't even singe the hairs on my head because I had decided I didn't care that I don't belong to the world. I care that I belong to God. And when that changed, my mind was really regenerated because all those things that made me want to cling to evil and to cling to these people who gave me nothing. But I was like begging for people's attention. And you know how people take advantage of that. But when the shift and the change came, when I said, okay, I choose Jesus. It was the harder way of living because, you know, when you're just going with the flow, nobody says anything wrong about you. Nobody attacks you. Nobody attacks your character. Nobody attacks your job. But then when you now decide to be on the right side of things, on the side of God, everybody came against me. But I proved myself there because when I left to go and work somewhere else, they understood the change so much that one of the gifts they gave me was a Bible. Because I taught them that I don't care for your attention and your acceptance anymore, but I care that God accepts me. It was hard, but it was so worth it. Because even when I left there, I even felt good. That, you know, I came through the fire and the rain and the storms, but it was good. It was really good. And even when I watched that show, and I was reminded, I was just thinking about it, I even watched it again before today, and I thought, wow, I've come a long way because I used to make myself a doormat just so that you could like me. And now that's the one thing I noticed very quickly, like, you're not going to take me for me. Your opinion of me doesn't define me, so that's okay. As long as God says it's fine, He can accept me, but you don't have to.
So instead of asking our team to put a little bit of that show, Nami, from your heart to the heart of someone who might be needing that word of encouragement, what would you tell that person?
Even if you think that the decisions you're making, which you know inside of yourself are really not making you happy, even if you think they're helping you survive, they're not. Because with every person who hurts you, with every person who abuses you, who takes advantage of you, at the cost of you wanting them to like you, you're losing a bit of yourself every single time with every single decision. What you need to do is choose, because you're making those choices, you're making those decisions. Now, you have the opportunity to choose the way I chose. And I'm saying the way I chose because I finally chose right, and it has sustained me and made me the person who I am today. Yes, a work in progress, but a good work in good progress. So you can now decide to choose the way I chose. It works, and that's the way of God. Because you will never be able to to please everybody. You're never going to make everybody accept you. And even when they do, they don't accept you for you. They accept you for the person you've created so that people can like you. God loves you as you are. And if you come to him, that is the one place that you will really belong, and you won't ever have to change to be someone else.
Hello everyone. The topic that was a highlight for me in the Women to Women show this year, 2022, was the one that was aired in Soweto. I don't recall the month exactly, but the topic was about the Gen Zs, and there was a panel of youth and the youngsters there in Soweto that explained how now their world is. And for me, that was truly a learning curve, because I'm a millennial myself, and understanding how the minds of the Gen Zs are and what the virtual world actually means to them. It was truly something that helped me to understand them better, because here in the church we work with a lot of youngsters. So sitting down with one to be able to help them in any way that I can be able to, I first need to understand what it's like to be in their shoes, and how the internet plays a big role in their lives, what people say about them, what people think about them in the social media, and how they express themselves in the social media. It was something that really taught me a lot about this generation. And so it was, like I said, a learning curve for me, because so many youngsters come to the church, and sometimes, I would sit down with one, it's like they're in planet Mars, for example, and I'm in Jupiter, and so we're not really able to find common ground, so to say, simply on how we were raised in different times. So the time that I was a youngster in my teens, it's far different than how they are right now and how they are being brought. The world which they are being brought up now, it's so much different. So that show for me was truly something that helped me, and I'm able now to kind of put myself in their shoes and being able to relate with them much better than before, when I didn't understand where they are really coming from. So that topic was truly a highlight for me.
We were reflecting about things that became part of the show. Nadala's shame. She nearly failed, but Nadala has been here, named after a Swahili name. We had the logo. We had the motto, where values are treasured. All of that God has been given us so that we give back to you. Nothing that what we're doing, it has never been, and it will never be for our own glory or credit. No? We had one show. I think that we are all itchy to talk about that. The most emotional show. You have no idea backstage. We had tears, we had reflection moments, and that for me was one of the striking shows, because it was a way, and I never spoke about, to pay tribute for my mom, who's already gone for 9 years. And maybe what I have never asked her, I had asked her, but I never maybe said all that much. And of course, to me, you felt the same, though of course your mom is around and you can tell her.
So that was really a beautiful show for me, and it has become, I would say, a gift that has kept on giving up until today. So it was the show that said I never asked. And there were a lot of things. And now when I think about it, it's so strange that I would say I've known my mom all my life, but those things which are so important, I just never spoke about them. And I remember telling a friend of mine years ago before the show, because as a child, there were a lot of things with my parents that I would be afraid to speak about. And I remember saying to her, I don't know if my parents were married or if it's a fiction of my imagination, because when you look down on yourself because of a particular issue, you turn to, as a child, you create things in your head. So I didn't know whether I have heard that being said in I still don't know, or if I created that idea that they were married in my head. And I never asked anyone, I never confirmed with anyone, but it was always a question mark that I wasn't sure until this show, that I was actually able to ask her to say, what was the situation with you guys? And she was able to confirm, because I used to think that because it was such a serious thing for me, a very hard thing to deal with, something that basically defined me. Like I identified through the rejection of not having my father. I used to think that I thought that they were married because that would be a better thing to, like, it was more acceptable than to think that no, it was just a boyfriend and girlfriend situation, and I was born in that situation. So I used to doubt myself. So when I finally asked my mom, and she told me all of those things, which like I said, it's strange that I didn't know these things. Like, it's strange that I never knew that my mother was married twice. I keep saying to her, who are you? I never forget that. Like, who are you? But it has been amazing because I was able to share that with my siblings. And through that show, they were able to clear assumptions that they had, because they are older than me. Whatever they told me, I took that as the truth, because they were around before I was. And we found out so many things that they, as children, had also assumed, but actually never asked our mother and never spoke about it, because everyone, as much as she did so many things to try and protect us, the children who grew up in these situations, they also tried to protect their primary caregiver. In our case, it was our mother. So they also were trying to protect her and not question or ask questions because they thought it would hurt her. And they were assuming things that they didn't really know for sure. They were creating stories in their own heads. They were believing certain things about her. And we were able to find out that, you know, we're not here to say, oh, she's amazing, she was perfect. She wasn't. There are a lot of mistakes that she made, but there are also a lot of things that we have come to appreciate from her. And I think the greatest thing that one of my brothers and I speak a lot, you know, with each other. One thing that came out from both of us is that we appreciate how there was no bitterness in her. And that's not something that we see a lot in these situations. Like, this woman is not bitter. She deals with her pain on her own. She didn't share it with us. We were not there to support her in whatever way that we could. But we find that she's not bitter. And my brother even said to me the other day that, you know, it's so interesting how what she wanted the most was family. And she couldn't sustain that because she didn't have the right tools to sustain it. And yet what she imparted in us the most, and why we say there's no bitterness, she never taught us to, like, especially me as being a girl, the only girl, to be disrespectful to her husband, to none of those things that you would normally expect in these situations. She would always be like, you say you want to get married, how are you going to take care of someone if you're not able to take care of yourself? She would always try to teach me the ways that a woman within the home needs to behave. Things that she learned from her grandmother, though she was tough, but she still appreciated those things. So we were speaking with my siblings how she's not bitter, and she really wanted us to have family. When she would say that she doesn't want the back hoof of a car to step where the front one did, that for her, I think that's the one thing that she managed, that God has blessed her with. Not that we are good children, we do give her a lot of headaches, but when she looks in that aspect, all of us have done differently to how she did. And I think that's the one thing that she really appreciates in us, or she can pat herself on the back to say, at least I was able to pass something different to my kids and not actually make them make the same mistakes. And we really appreciate. This is when I say it keeps on giving, because every time we speak with my brothers about all three of us are married, the challenges that we face in life, in marriage, you know, in life in general, work and all of that, we always find ourselves drawing from something that she taught us, or something that I shared with them that she said. I'm like, oh, now it makes sense. So many gaps have been filled. Oh, it makes sense. Oh, that's why she does this. Oh, that's why, you know, she doesn't appreciate that we have found answers that we never even knew we needed, but that show offered us that. So for that, I think I speak for my siblings as well, we will forever be grateful.
Besides being very emotional, that show made us to realize one point: how we take relationships for granted, and we think that we know each other's life, that we know the impact or the traumas of the past, and we don't. So making that show, I've never asked her. It brought back what they went through, and what we went to achieve is that you would reflect on how much really do you know those who are important around you in your life. Now, we had favorite songs. What was your favorite song?
Mine was, I would sing it, Njengomntwana. That one is my favorite song, because I remember when the CD came out, Africa, that was the song that I would play on repeat. And when it played on the show, I was so excited. I'm not gonna destroy the memories by singing it, but that was my favorite
No,
song.
but we brought today someone who can really make it shine. So that's our live performance. Nametsu, a little bit of the song. No, there is no cut. Let's go, Nami.
I can back it.
Njengomntwana.
Yes, I can support it.
Yeah, let's go.
Njengomntwana emhlane kamama.
I like that.
Nkosi yami, thatha impilo yami, ngunaphakade, angifuni ukuba ngedwa, akekho mngani ongayazi impilo yami.
Woman to Woman has got talents. Whoa!
Nkosi yami, thatha impilo yami, ngunaphakade, angifuni ukuba ngedwa, akekho mngani ongayazi impilo yami.
My favorite song is Now I See, and it was also Nami who performed it.
Now I see what I couldn't, that you were always with me, you were always with me. But now I see your love, how much you care for me. Now I see.
Because Woman to Woman seems to flow so effortlessly on screen, I guess it's easy to think that things flow that way behind the camera as well. Well, see for yourself.
You guys don't look scared at the camera, okay? Smile. Silmara, pray. The pray. You're not going to talk about pray?
Oh, praying. Sorry.
Another cut.
I'm sorry, I was also quite
And now we're going to look at Sumara again, because we were looking at her, all of us, and then we're ready with the mic. 3, 2, 1.
3, 2.
So, are you sure you're taking note of all these ups and downs? I hope it doesn't come on.
Mental notes.
You know, those notes, they get lost. My mental notes, they need mental notes. They need to take notes.
Whatever you're going to do to reach that goal. Yes or no? No. Yes or no? No. But many people.
Talk more. I had a band freeze.
The freezing moment.
She took mine, the competing. No, mine was competing.
That's why we see a lot of youths going through this conflict.
Did you record? Because I did the 3, 2, 1
It's recording.
for you.
It's recording.
Sorry, let's go again. Wait. And don't start speaking because I need to speak as well. Thank you. Let's go.
3, 2.
Nicholas, if you don't mind 3, 2, 1, because they are talking.
This one again, yes, all of you, this one.
That's what I thought of. Like, okay, when he resurrected, it wasn't just him.
Can we cut because you were talking about my paradox and the second part?
Oops. Okay. Everybody knows there's filters.
That's a break. That's why you have to do editing all the time. Whose phone is this? You see, it's cut.
Now tell me you're in South Africa without telling me you're in South Africa.
Ending your life is actually just the beginning of the worst. If you think
But despite all the mistakes, the confusion, the laughter and repetitions, we wouldn't trade it for anything.
We hold on to our bench, working from.
And that is only a taste of what is to come.
And I counted like you were in like.
But now, back to the show.
3, 2.
We really had wonderful moments. And what makes it so wonderful is that nothing here is planned. Nothing here is rehearsed. It comes as the Holy Spirit gives us. Sometimes it goes wrong. Sometimes we have setbacks. But what you have is what happens on and off stage. I'm missing something right now. That is one characteristic of the show. The Battle of the Flags. Let us start. Let us remember the Battle of the Flags throughout 2022. And I'm going to make a challenge for 2023, but I'm not going to announce it until next week's show because I need to talk to my team, especially the partners from YPG. Anyway, Sil, what was your favorite show?
I have to confess, I had to do a top 3 because going through all the shows was hard to choose. Even to choose 3 was very hard. But one of that spoke louder to me was the butterfly effect. And it reminded me because I have always wow moments when comes testimony of people. I grew up in church. So that saying like bring me a shock, like, okay.
So you struggle with all the programs of YPG?
Yeah, I love them, but to grow up in the church, it's a difference of the life. I grew up in church as well, so I see how different, and it made me to remember the small flips of wings I gave when I was a child in the church created the big change and the effects of today in my life. So thank God, I was privileged to grow up in church and find Jesus at a small age. The flips, the butterfly is so beautiful, and the process of turning into a butterfly when I arrived in the church and the change, the caterpillar, you all know the story, but those small flips that I gave in the beginning of my faith brought me to where I am today, having a blessed family and serving God, and see the difference that when you give your life very small, you will find the results later on. So the butterfly effect, when we spoke about it, it really called my attention and made me to see, don't stop doing that. Because you can make a small change and can impact someone else. Because when you think, okay, it's just me, what is going to really change if I just change in this aspect? But it changes your family, it changes your husband. Maybe you are seeking so much the change of someone else. And that will start when you change. So this show was really amazing for me.
I thought you would choose one of the Love Life shows.
I just wanted to cut you. I had many that I wanted to choose. But
this series of lessons learned from nature, it was very, very beautiful. And it was coming one after the other. We didn't sit down and plan way ahead. As we were doing one, we would find something else. You also mentioned about the bamboo tree. That was very amazing.
How renewable it is. And I think it's something, regardless of whether you are a believer in God, whether you are a business person, whatever walk of life that you're in, you need to be renewable. You need to be strong. So for me, it's, the strength of the tree. How from the eye, it looks very weak because it's not big. It looks very weak. And people usually, in the world that we live in, I would say when they think of Christians, they think of weakness. They think of, people who have no expression, who are nothing, who are not famous.
Who don't have a backbone.
Who don't have a backbone, who are not known in the world. You're not considered in the world. And yet, when we have God, that's when we are so strong. So for me, we are so renewable because no matter what season of life we're going through, this is what stood out for me. No matter what season of life that you're going through and how defeated you may feel, or maybe things didn't go well and you think that, all is lost. If you are trusting in God and you trust in His strength, He will renew you and He will allow you to have a new season that will be, as He promises, better than the first one. So that also, it's a show that really stood out for me.
And for me, the bamboo tree in relation to patience, because it takes 5 years to grow. So patience really produces everlasting fruits. And it took me back to my relationship with God. Because with the bamboo tree, you need to nourish, you need to water, it needs to be a daily work. So also with my spirituality, it's a daily work. I need to work at it on a day-to-day basis. What I do daily matters. I can't rely on what I did last week or once a week. So patience for me was a very important lesson that I derived from the bamboo tree, because it eventually grows. And I took it as me spending eternity with God. As I keep nurturing, I keep nourishing my relationship with God on a day-to-day basis, then I will reach eternity with Him.
And my bamboo tree is growing. I just need to put it on record. I normally love the shows that we have for women. It's who we are. So when we take the month of August to celebrate women, and when we do the 16 days of activism that we spoke about, our legacy, that needs to be something we are going to carry on for 2023. Like we did the work in progress, we are going to carry on because it never stops. And to start a legacy is something that we have to decide, and it will never end. Every day counts. So I am passionate for the shows we do for women. The value of women, when we spoke about Boss Babe, that's a reality of our society. When we spoke about sabotaging your marriage, those are the kind of shows that I really love. So let us see a little bit about the legacy. We have come about this show because when we were preparing for our show of Women's Day, we were looking for role models, those who have left us a legacy so that we could boldly speak of them. And we found a few. We are very happy to have very good role models. However, we realized that most of them are old or have passed. You don't build a legacy overnight. You don't talk about the great names in history because it was just one action and boom, they did a difference. They had to start with small individual initiatives.
Because we're always, every time people talk about GBV, it's government this, NGOs that, and this group that group that. But what about me? Just one simple person in this world that has billions and billions of people. But we forget that we form that collective. And if my individual initiatives can make a difference, I will leave a good legacy for people.
How I know in South Africa or Africa at large, we like to say it takes a village to raise a child. Usually when people turn a blind eye, they think that it's from next door. It's that family that's dealing with it. It's not going to affect me. But they forget that even their own children can hear what is happening next door and they are watching their behavior.
And this is how we are starting to leave our legacy. We don't want our names in books, in the Hall of Fames, in galleries, but we want to reach to you who needs this help. Our glory is to know that you will conquer a new life. It might not be for you, but don't put a blind eye. There must be someone in your circle, in your community, family, school, work, church, that you know, and you can encourage her. Start practicing creating this legacy and bring her to receive counseling, to receive a prayer. Let us give hands. What starts as an individual initiative may become a group. And I am sure if we start practicing this so much more, we will, to a certain extent, reduce the effects of GBV and feminicide in this country.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Linda. I'm from Motherwell, Gqeberha. From woman to woman, I got to learn more about myself and things that made me to identify myself more. The most confrontational show was the one of curiosity, because it was speaking straight to me. I am the curious person. I was liking actually to ask whenever I would find people speaking about something or about someone, I would ask, what are you talking about? Who are you talking about? So through this show, I got to know that there is no need to know something that does not come for you. If you don't know, which means it's not for you. If it's for you, it will come to you and you will know it. So through this show, I got to learn that I have to stop to be curious. I have to mind only what is for me, more especially what will benefit my spiritual life. The show that made a biggest impact in my life is that one of Silence is Golden. Because I learned that being silent can impact a person in two ways, either negative or positive. Through listening, when you listen to a person and put yourself in the shoes of a person, and not be quick to judge a person, because by being quick to judge a person, you can judge a person wrongly. You can come into wrong conclusion.
Okay, like the one of my dear brother, that one was very special for me because we never had a show since we started.
We were bold, huh?
Yes.
We were bold.
And it was really hard to come up with the topics like immediately, but when we look at what is going on outside with our own brothers in the church, it came easily to us. So it was something beautiful that for once we had a program only for men. Yeah, it was good for me. I like that one. To my dear brother, that one was the best.
We are going to talk to you as if we were talking to our brothers.
So my message to my brothers, older, younger, brothers who are fathers, I would say that when raising your child, could you consider, instilling in your boys as well the importance of them being pure, keeping their purity, the importance of them respecting their bodies the same way that I believe you teach your daughters. So don't stop with the daughters.
So I think a lot of men, they actually downplay their role on how they present themselves, because nowadays with the world changing and trends coming in and out, we see a lot of our brothers representing themselves in an inappropriate manner.
Men's mental health, we have been overlooking it, but men are really suffering out there and they cannot even talk about it because, as we said, men are told to man up. Real men do not cry.
And I would say to my brother in that case, you are far more valuable than your financial life. The power to change the situation is in you. So if you give up about trying, you are not going to have a solution. However, if you try, I'm sure you're going to make it through.
I did this mistake once when you see a boy and you say, "Don't cry, boys don't cry." And the child does not understand why
he cannot
I
cry.
cannot cry. So it's those little sentences that we grew up seeing our parents, and it became so common that we tell the kids, but take them to the other side of being so much violent.
It seems overwhelming that God has given you roles and duties. But that is to show how important you are for Him. He counts on you. He wants to be partners with you. Brothers, our brothers, those that we know, those too we have family ties, those whom we don't know, you're just behind this screen. God is counting on you for that. Your strength comes from your spiritual connection to Him. Your courage comes from His Spirit. Your performance as a son, as a father, as a husband will be guided by Him.
My name is Pumzile from Shoshanguve 1, Pretoria. My favorite show this year has to be Revealing God's Glory. Through the show, I got to learn that I don't have to be someone who has an experience in the world. I have indulged myself in the world to have a great testimony. The greatest testimony one could ever have is remaining firm in the presence of God. The most confrontational was classing your pearls. I started being more of myself and not caring about what other people think, their views and opinions about myself. And I also learned to allow other people to be themselves around me without me imposing my opinions on them and my point of view, which is one of the characteristics of someone who is authentic.
If you realize today we didn't have time for break, and we are not going to call for a break because we're giving you a lot of breaks with the backstages, with the songs, and we are enjoying ourselves. I hope you are as well, with this program where we make a reflection of the journey. We started Woman to Woman show during the pandemic on radio. Then the hard lockdown was over and we were doing it once a week. And here we are 2 years later, almost going to 3 years. And you have been in this journey with us. So everything that we do here, we do for a purpose and with a meaning. I don't want ever to come here and do something that we don't put our whole soul on that. Sometimes some of these topics that these girls get for us, they are so complicated that I have to do research because, of course, working with the youth, they are more in tune with what's happening out there. And I have to go back, revisit, and do my research. And I learned a lot in the process. But my wow moment from all this year, and we mentioned many shows, we mentioned grateful moments, we had backstages, we had the contribution of YPG. But personally, for me, it was when we were speaking the testimony about God. And actually, I see that this show has to reveal God's glory. And in that moment that I was speaking about the testimony that people end up glorifying themselves with not glorifying God, that moment was very important for me at a personal level because it was like a flashback of everything that we do. Is it for God's glory? We have one mission. We have one priority as Christians to reveal God's glory. If I'm going to get 1 hour of your Friday every week, and we are going to speak about us, about our ideas, about our opinion, how we see the world, is not going to change your life. So the aim of Woman to Woman is basically to convey a message that will make you to reflect, to evaluate, and to make changes. How that will be possible if it is our mind. So everything that we do, it is to reveal God's glory. And that was the affirmation of God to me. If this show does not bring glory to God, there is no point in carrying on for 2023. So if everything that I do is not for the glory of God, why doing it? Because we are very temporary. We come and go. But joining it with our legacy, if all that you wanted to do does not bring glory to God, there is no point in doing it. And of course, in that show, I read another verse. But reflecting about the show itself and how it spoke to me louder than any of the other shows, to understand my role, to understand my calling, to understand the purpose of the show and the purpose of everything that we do. If it's not to reveal God's glory, better I don't do, because if I try to do, I'm sinning. I am imposing, I am getting the merit, and no one can ever touch his glory. So I came across, and I wanted to live with you, this verse of Ephesians. It was not the one that I used in the show. And yesterday, I was looking at that show and the verse, and I came across this one that to me spoke even louder. Now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us, to him be glory in the church by Christ Jesus to all generations, forever and forever. God is willing to do exceedingly more, abundantly more than what we ask for, only if it is for his glory. So if what we do does not aim to glorify him, it will not have fruits. And we hope and we pray that your journey in 2022 somehow was impacted by the fruits of the program, not because we want you to know us or to look at us and say, oh, they are women of God, we love this show, but we want you to see God through us and to believe that you also have this mission to reveal his glory and to show to people through your life his glory and his power to do exceedingly more and abundantly more in the church of Jesus Christ through us. So that was the moment, the mission, the calling of reflecting God's glory, God's power. Not my image, not your image, not our names, now how guilty we are or not, but God through us. So would you pray for them so that it may become part of the work in progress for each one of them and for us as well.
Okay, let us pray. My Lord and my Father, giving you thanks, O Lord, for this opportunity, for making this show, my God, available for each and every one of us. All I see, my Father, is your love, is your care, because of the deep work that you have done in each and every one of us. Today we are able, my God, to testify. We are able, Holy Spirit, to speak about what we have improved on because of what you did. But I pray in particular of this person, my God, who's been struggling to change, who's been resisting, my Lord, to take heed of the lessons that she has received from the show. I pray that may you help them, Holy Spirit. May you enable them. May you allow them, my Father, to come out of whatever that is making them stuck so that they can move, so that they can embrace you. Because you, oh Lord, you can be able to enable them. You can be able to support them. You can be able to hold them and assist them to the fullest. And they can be women that you want them to become. Therefore, I pray for each and every one of them, for them to have an open mind, an open heart for what you have in store for them, because you are our Father and you want what's best for us. Therefore, keep working in each and every one of us. Keep molding us. Keep, Holy Spirit, shaping us for the honor and glory of your name. I bless each and every one of your people. In Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Amen. So may you have a great holiday. Enjoy the few days ahead with family and friends. If you are alone, remember there is a family here for you. There is a family at any universal church that can embrace you during these holidays, be part of your life, lead you the way to see God's glory in your life and to become His glory to others. Next week, we are back. The last show, the last Friday of 2022. As I said, a very striking year for all of us. And we are going to talk a little bit about what we personally expect or desire or hope for in 2023. It's going to be a very interesting show, and I'm sure that you are going to let us know your thoughts and your plans as the show goes by. God bless you all. Until next week, Friday, the last of 2022, we have to spend it together at 3 p.m. Bye-bye.
That's right. You asked and we finally answered. Women to Women will be having a 2-part special, packed with every kind of incredible moment you can think of. From the bloopers to the laughters and everything in between. And the best part? You will be our special guest, sharing with us what your favorite show and moments were of 2022. Are you ready for this? See you this Friday at 3 p.m.